Leisure has often been defined as a quality of experience or as free time. Free time is time spent away from business, work, job hunting, domestic chores, and education, as well as necessary activities such as eating and sleeping. Leisure as an experience usually emphasizes dimensions of perceived freedom and choice. It is done for its own sake, for the quality of experience and involvement. Other classic definitions include Torsten Veblen's of non-productive consumption of time. Different disciplines have definitions reflecting their common issues. For example, sociology on social forces and contexts and psychology as mental and emotional states and conditions. From a research perspective, these approaches have an advantage of being quantifiable and comparable over time and place. Leisure studies and sociology of leisure are the academic disciplines concerned with the study and analysis of leisure. Recreation differs from leisure in that it is a purposeful activity that includes the experience of leisure in activity contexts. Economists consider that leisure times are valuable to a person like wages that they could earn for the same time spent towards the activity. If it were not, people would have worked instead of taking leisure. However, the distinction between leisure and unavoidable activities is not a rigidly defined one. E.g., people sometimes do work-oriented tasks for pleasure as well as for long-term utility. A related concept is social leisure, which involves leisurely activities in social settings, such as extracurricular activities, e.g., sports, clubs. Another related concept is that of family leisure. Relationships with others is usually a major factor in both satisfaction and choice. The concept of leisure as a human right was realized in Article 24 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Leisure has historically been the privilege of the upper class. Opportunities for leisure came with more money, or organization, and less working time, rising dramatically in the mid to late 19th century, starting in Great Britain and spreading to other rich nations in Europe. It spread as well to the United States, although that country had a reputation in Europe for providing much less leisure despite its wealth. Immigrants to the United States discovered they had to work harder than they did in Europe. Economists continue to investigate why Americans work longer hours. In a recent book, Laurent Turcotte argues that leisure was not created in the 19th century but is imbricated in the Occidental world since the beginning of history. In Canada, leisure in the country is related to the decline in work hours and is shaped by moral values and the ethnic, religious and gender communities. In a cold country with winter's long nights and summer's extended daylight, favorite leisure activities include horse racing, team sports such as hockey, sing-alongs, roller skating and board games. The churches tried to steer leisure activities by preaching against drinking and scheduling annual revivals and weekly club activities. By 1930, radio played a major role in uniting Canadians behind their local or regional hockey teams. Play-by-play sports coverage, especially of ice hockey, absorbed fans far more intensely than newspaper accounts the next day. Rural areas were especially influenced by sports coverage. Leisure by the mid-19th century was no longer an individualistic activity. It was increasingly organized. In the French industrial city of Lille, with a population of 80,000 in 1858, the cabarets or taverns for the working class numbered 1,300, or one for every 3 houses. Lille counted 63 drinking and singing clubs, 37 clubs for card players, 23 for bowling, 13 for skittles, and 18 for archery. The churches likewise have their social organizations. Each club had a long roster of officers and a busy schedule of banquets, festivals and competitions. As literacy, wealth, ease of travel, and a broadened sense of community grew in Britain from the mid-19th century onward, there was more time and interest in leisure activities of all sorts. On the part of all classes, opportunities for leisure activities increased because real wages continued to grow and hours of work continued to decline. In urban Britain, the 9-hour day was increasingly the norm. 1874 Factory Act limited the work week to 56.5 hours. The movement toward an 8-hour day Furthermore, system of routine annual vacations came into play, starting with white-collar workers and moving into the working class. Some 200 seaside resorts emerged thanks to cheap hotels and inexpensive railway fares. Widespread banking holidays and the fading of many religious prohibitions against secular activities on Sundays. By the late Victorian era, the leisure industry had emerged in all British cities, and the pattern was copied across Western Europe and North America. It provided scheduled entertainment of suitable length and convenient locales at inexpensive